15. I shall call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see. Miss Carolina, let's do roll call, please.
Councilmember Corrales?
Yes.
Selby? Miller?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes.
Mayor Waller?
Yes. Well, welcome, everyone. And for those of you who haven't ever been to a city council meeting, I guess we'll welcome you in advance. I'll ask right now at this time for additions or corrections to tonight's agenda. I would like to add a line item B under other business. I'll just call it Mary Elizabeth's three things. If you'll recall, if you weren't here at the last meeting, typically during our citizens' comments, when people bring issues before the council, we typically don't take action on those items that are brought forward. However, there will be an exception to that tonight, and we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. So I would like to add that item, and then we'll address her concerns at that time. Was there any other additions or corrections?
I would also, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but the Baseball Association is here this evening. They spoke at Planning Commission last week, and one of the things that the Planning Commission asked was with the Baseball Association is seeking a variance request, and the Planning Commission asked City Council to take some considerations for that. So under Section 9, Petitions, Requests, and Communications, I'd like to add a letter B, consideration per the Planning Commission's request for City Council to consider for the variance.
Okay, I think that'll cover it. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with those items then.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda with the items, the added items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, this is the citizens' comments portion of our meeting, and this is the time when if there's people in the audience, which I think we have at least a couple, this is your opportunity to come and get before the council. We ask that all we ask is you come up to the microphone, state your name and your address, and state your business. I guess I'd like to preface the first up tonight is the Morris Baseball Association, and Kirby is here, and I just kind of want to bring everybody in the listening audience up to speed on kind of where the progress that we've, kind of how this thing evolved and how we got to where we're at tonight. The Baseball Association came before this council, gosh, it's probably 3 months ago. I can't remember, Kirby, when you're, pardon?
August.
It was in August. So they came before us, the council in August, and they were talking about their plans to build a 60 by 100 shed, and at that time, they brought forward their initial plan was to put it out in the left field area of Eagles Ballpark, and after some discussion, it was determined that probably wasn't going to be the best location for that size of a building, given the utilities and so forth that were in that left field area. So our recommendation to Kirby and Jared at that time was to probably seek out and talk to the Bill and Teresa Game to see if they could secure some property, that little triangle piece, if you're familiar with Eagles Ballpark. And that was pretty much the last communication that this council has had with the Baseball Association. So it appears that that's happened. You know, Kirby, you'll get to that in just a minute, but I just wanted everybody in the audience to just kind of understand how the evolution of this project, if you will, has happened. So with that, I'll just bring Kirby up, and you can kind of bring us up to speed on your latest plans.
Kirby Sales, president of the Morris Baseball Association. So like Mayor Waller was saying, we've been wanting to build this field house mainly as a benefit to our community, specifically our baseball playing community, to be able to come in and hit and work on baseball items throughout the year rather than just summer, spring, where we have outdoor cages. After our meeting in August, we had a few recommendations from the city council that we've taken into consideration. We've been working with the property owner next to the ball field. And one of the things we were talking about is trying to purchase a piece of land there, but taking up as much or as little room as possible. So we're looking at, again, making this feel as if it's part of the ballpark out at Eagles Park. So we want to get this as much as it seems to look as if it's part of the park, but be under baseball associations. It'd be their property to run the maintenance and everything else that goes into it. So I believe there's a map in front of some of you. I'm not sure I have enough for everyone, but that's showing kind of what we're looking at. So this field house would go kind of tucked away behind the grandstand area of the baseball field. And what we've requested from the zoning committee is a variance to go right up to the property line of the city park, so that, again, it feels as if it's a piece of the park itself, rather than just a building standing there. This would also limit, obstruction of views from the townhomes across the street. It keeps it a little bit out of the way for snow and everything else. The other recommendations we've taken, there will be water utilities to it, heat, air conditioning. So there will be a bathroom in it for people to use throughout the year. So what we're looking for tonight, after we presented to the zoning committee, is they asked us, they said, well, this is city property, how do they feel about it? And that's kind of where we're at, is they would like essentially your stamp of approval that you're okay with this variance before we go back to them, and then they can vote on whether to allow this variance or not. Any questions?
Not really necessarily a question, but that issue, just so everybody's clear, is the 14-day time frame here. The public hearing was presented, the variance request was presented last Tuesday. So the planning commission is up against a window of 14 days. They have to act on this. So it's important that we as a council take some action on this tonight, so then it can go back to the planning commission. You're gonna hold a special, I think they're gonna hold a special meeting, I believe, next week.
Next Tuesday.
So when they can act on this variance, otherwise they have to start everything all over again, so. I just applaud all your hard work, Kirby. I know you guys have put a lot of work and energy into this, and it's gonna be a great asset, I think, to our community. As you know, we have winter 6 months out of the year, and skill development for baseball players pretty much stops. And hence, that's, I think, what the purpose of this complex is, and I think it's gonna be a really good asset and really good for Morris baseball. So I thank you for all that hard work.
So
Go ahead.
we're just approving we're giving our opinion on it. It still needs to come back to the council after the hearing next Tuesday on the recommendation from the planning commission.
No,
No,
planning commission can grant the variance.
Okay.
So this is because we haven't seen this specific layout. That's planning commission requested.
yep.
Get our opinion, going back to the planning commission for the final there.
Your setbacks on the other two sides are at what the standards are for,
Correct, 25.
okay?
And just so the council knows, that area is zoned residential. It's an RM district, residential multifamily dwelling. And the setbacks, I think, are discussed in our charter, but the height is up to 2.5 stories, so they can go, and you're not gonna go, what do you think, anticipate the height of the building, Kirby, is?
Couldn't be much over batting cages go 14 feet high.
So you're
it'll
well
be right
within
over
that, you're well within those guidelines, what are approved there, so. That, really the only issue is that rear setback, that 4 feet kind of thing, and that's really what we need to make a decision on here at our end, and then it'll go back.
And that's what we're approving later on
Yeah.
down, so this
Yep.
is just, thanks for doing all this extra work, cause I know when you first brought it there was a lot of questions, and, I don't know, this makes sense where you put it, took care of all the boxes that was the concerns, you added things, it makes it easy parking, easy snow clean out, so it can be used all year long. The access to the, being able to have plumbing and water in there as well. Nicely done.
Any other questions for Kirby? Okay, thanks Kirby for coming in, I appreciate it. Well, then I guess if there's no other questions from the council, we'll just entertain a motion to take some sort of action on this.
We added that under petitions and requests.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
down there.
I'm sorry, we gotta finish.
Mhm.
We have to
Oh,
finish.
yeah, sorry, my bad, got a little ahead of my skis there. Okay, so we have, okay, we'll get to that when we get down to the, line item B is when we'll take action, sorry, thank you for squaring me away on that. Next up is, well, we have the tree board, annual report, and I believe Sue is here, she's gonna speak to the council on that.
Sue Granger, I'm the chair of the tree board, and also with me is Margaret Kuchenreuter and Tom Holm. And the other two members are Sally Finzel and Liz Morrison, and they're both on vacation, otherwise they would probably be here too. So you received a one-page annual report from us, but we wanted to just come before you and illustrate some of the points in it a little bit, and then just to give you a sort of a status report on some current conditions that are serious and of concern. But so Becca's going to advance the slides when I get to it. But first of all, just wanted to remind you that the tree board was established in 1997 by city ordinance, and this was in recognition, I think, of the fact that the trees in Morris, the public trees are about 25%, we think, roughly, of all trees in this community, and that they are really public infrastructure because of their tremendous public benefit. So next slide. So I'm just going to go through just a couple slides on the benefits, and one of the big benefits that we really want the public to realize is that trees save money for residents, and the primary way they do that is to reduce utility bills. And so they shade our homes, they cool the air, two different actual functions, two different processes, but especially with extreme heat becoming more and more common, it's just really important. Helps reduce air conditioning bills. And then even in the winter without leaves, they play a role in blocking the wind, as every farmer who has a windbreak knows, and that also reduces utility bills for heating. So they conserve energy, reducing our energy usage. And this helps a little bit with the Morris model goal we just wanted to point out, which is reduce energy consumption in the city 30% by 2030. So trees play a role in that. Another important benefit is that they intercept rainwater and reduce storm runoff. And this is quite a cool process. The leaves gather, they catch the rainwater, and it stays on the leaves and the twigs and the trunk of the tree, the bark, and it very slowly evaporates. And so that reduces the amount of water going into the storm water system, and it's really a big tree, or even a medium-sized tree, can capture thousands of gallons of water. It's been tested, it's proven. You wouldn't think of it, but it's actually, so they play a big role. Plus, their roots help the ground beneath absorb rainwater. So this is protecting the capacity of the stormwater system at peak flows especially, which of course protects the Pomme de Terre River, prevents erosion. And a really important thing about all these benefits is the benefits increase with the tree size, with the canopy size. And so I'll talk about that in a couple minutes, but the size of the tree is really, really important. In addition to lowering utility bills for property owners, they increase privacy. It helps us when we've got these 50-foot lots, 75-foot lots. We're all kind of crammed in with each other, and the trees provide privacy 1 yard to the next. They raise property values. They beautify our neighborhoods. They create a distributed green space, if you think about it. It's almost like a parkway that you can walk along on all these streets. And they also, when streets are lined with trees, it reduces the traffic speeds, which is, MnDOT uses this actually to help reduce traffic speeds by planting trees. So that also makes our neighborhoods safer. Finally, trees provide wildlife habitat, obviously. Really important that Minnesota bird numbers have declined significantly since 1970. So I've noticed it, you probably have too. You don't hear the bird song that we used to when we were kids. And so trees help birds and other wildlife. So here's some of the challenges that we're facing. Overall, the tree canopy is declining. Our big trees are going down, and they're going down fast. And so if you scan the horizons, do a panorama, you can see fewer and fewer big trees rising above the houses. And this is due to storms. We had 2 of the biggest storms to ever hit Morris in recent memory anyway. Disease, Dutch elm disease, and then just old age. It's just that the age of the trees is getting up there for a lot of them, and they're just simply at the end of their lifespan. So the number of large trees is significantly declining, and because the big trees have the biggest benefit, that means that it's a steady loss of the benefits that I just described. Another really important thing that we think about is there's a 30-year delay between when you plant a tree and when it even approaches the benefits of a mature tree. And we have personal experience. I have planted trees myself that are now 30 years old by my house and in other places, and they're just getting big. So you can see on the right a newly planted tree. On the left is a mature tree, a big example, but you can see the amount of mass. It's just 30 years at least. That tree on the left is actually maybe 50, 60 years old. But so losing our big trees is just, because of that time delay, it's just really a big deal. The most important urban forestry measure for energy savings, climate mitigation, and other benefits is to protect our existing trees, even more than planting new ones. And this takes thoughtful management and best practices like proper pruning to give the trees the best chance for a long and healthy life. So that leads to we did an urban forest management plan. You probably remember this council adopted it in 2021. It's 8 pages, kind of short and sweet. It has 3 major goals, and then each one has some strategies and some action items. So next page is, I just wanted to tell you the goals. Goal number 1 is the city of Morris sheltered by maximum tree canopy. And so some of the strategies, strategy A is preserve the community's largest trees. And here's some examples of the action items. Prioritize the preservation of existing trees over planting new trees, and then prioritize pruning over removal. So the city crew, the public works director, is directed by this to try to prioritize pruning, unless of course there's some kind of a fatal crack or something, but should try to prioritize pruning over removal. And you can see the dilemma we're in with the storm damage and the diseases and the old age of the trees, yet it's so important to keep them. So it's a difficult management problem, we'll put it that way. Goal 2 is a healthy and resilient urban forest, and an example of the strategies is have good age and species diversity, which we're doing pretty well on that one. And then the goal 3 is Morris citizens knowledgeable about and supportive of the urban forest. And this is important so that the residents understand both the benefits and the challenges, so that when the city undertakes management efforts, we need people to understand what it is that's going on, you know, why the trees are being pruned, etc. And now I'm to the annual report. So we have 2 major grants that just started, and in total, it's $133,000. So this is major money. One of them is a federal relief grant, and I just put in here, these were very competitive. There were 151 applications, and Morris was chosen of 38 cities chosen. And this is to structurally prune trees for storm resilience. It had to be an ISA certified arborist, which Craig Beyer is. So he's been out right now again on this warm weather. He's doing it 4 different years in the winter, which is when you prune. So he was just actually in the library, and he went down Oregon today. So he's doing storm damage if there are broken branches, and primarily he's pruning small trees, really little ones up to about 6 inches, and trying to make them structurally sound. A lot of them have 2 leaders or 3, and he's removing them so that they don't split in the storms. And it's a multi-year process. So if you look at some of the trees, they're gonna look kind of funny because he has to, it's called reduction pruning. He has to shorten some of the branches so the other ones grow, and then the shorter ones, a lot of them will eventually be removed. So it's the best practices for pruning. And then our other grant is $30,000 for planting trees. Again, we were chosen, it was very competitive. And of the 300 trees that we're gonna plant, we're just under 100 have been planted so far. So for the planting, we planted 116 public trees this year, about half by volunteers and half by the city crew. So the big volunteer effort was in May when we had our community tree planting project. About 70 people signed in on the sign-up sheets. They didn't all get into the picture because they were scattered all over the place, but that was a lot of people. For Morris, 70 people is quite a turnout. So that was very successful. A lot of Girl Scouts and others. Then volunteers planted about 20 trees at Chiswick's Field, and that's, I think, about the third phase of the tree planting out there at Eagles Park. And so then volunteers planted 10 trees on boulevards that were donated by a resident, really nice trees, 10, and then the city crew did 65 trees. So between the grants, the two of those were grant funded and then donated. So this year I think we didn't have to draw from the budget at all. Dutch elm disease is moving through Morris. It started in the 70s, so it's interesting. It's taken 50 years to move through Morris, and we still have a fair number of elms, but they're massive, so when we lose them, it's just a big hole in the canopy. But we lost about 15 elms this year. About 14 were treated for Dutch elm disease is a fungus spread by the elm beetle. So about 14 were treated, and then also there's a cost share program, and so several boulevard trees were also treated. And that's Steve Boyd doing the treating. Then now we've got the big threat coming, which is emerald ash borer. It was found in St. Paul in 2009, and you can see in the orange it is spreading across the state. It's primarily moved through firewood. We talk about this constantly in the tree board. If we could just keep outside firewood out of Morris, we could really delay the onset of the emerald ash borer. It was found in Glenwood, so that's the closest to us now, in the last spring, and we're worried that people might inadvertently bring in firewood from Starbuck, from somewhere near Pope County, and bring it into Morris. So really, we're trying to emphasize, and we'll be doing that this year, that everybody should buy their wood locally. Don't bring it in from a farm or, from Cyrus or anywhere else. And if we could do that, if we could just put a fence around Morris, we can keep emerald ash borer delayed, and that's going to help all of our other trees grow up. So about a third of our canopy is ash. That's the blue here. So it's going to be very serious. The city has preemptively removed about 180 ash from the boulevards, and this is based on the tree board developed a criteria, and then we've gone out several seasons. So I think this year they're taking 22. So Margaret and I actually went out and found 22. We're picking the ones that are poor in structure, unhealthy, poor condition, and just trying to remove them. And the idea is to both make spots for new trees to be planted, but also kind of spread the city crew's work out, so when this thing hits, they're just not so overwhelmed. And many more ash were removed from Pomme de Terre Park, besides the 180, and then a lot have been lost to storms and old age. Also, we're doing a draft EAB response plan that we're going to bring to the council. We think in early summer it'll be ready for you to get your input on it. We also do public education, and in the middle of that booth is a poster, and we want to show it on the right, this is part of the preserve the existing trees we have. So it's a poster about weed whipping damage and mower damage. A lot of trees get accidentally hit at the base, and then that shortens their life. They're not going to grow to be these big, massive trees if they have those kind of wounds, because that's where insects get in and the tree just responds, and it can cause death to the tree. Another thing we're doing to help preserve existing trees, we made a construction protection handout. And I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but we give it to contractors when they do road projects. It's actually, there's a paragraph that goes right into the specs for road projects and talks about how just helping them realize they need to protect the trees and not hit them with equipment. This happened this summer, right by my office, actually, on 9th Street, and there was a private service line going in, and I was standing right over there, and there was a young man in a Bobcat, and he backed it up and hit this nice silver maple, which had nothing wrong with it. But so Russ is going to carry these construction protection handouts around, and when he has the opportunity, he's going to try to give it to the contractors too, so that they just are a little more aware. In some cities, they require putting snow fencing, like orange fencing around the trees, just to kind of catch the eye of the operators, which wouldn't be a bad idea, but Russ says that a lot of times he doesn't know about the private work that goes on, so can't always catch it. Another thing that we did last year this was Tom Holmes' brainchild, and he really worked a lot on it, is these tags that we hang on the newly planted trees and put it on the doorknobs of the houses nearby. And it says, this tree was planted by the city of Morris. Please give it 5 gallons of water per week to help it flourish. Thank you, Morris Tree Board. And we write the species on the back in case people are curious. Also, our Morris Tree Stewards program, thousands of dollars of labor is being contributed by these trained volunteers. And every 3 years, the University of Minnesota comes and trains us. So this is the Morris chapter in a statewide program. And so we had a training in October. It was 6 hours long, and 19 people attended. So we were very happy about that. I think, Kim, you went through the training one year. And finally, to just tell you about a couple of new projects for 2025, we're doing a city tree giveaway in May. We're giving away 100 trees. This is city money that would have gone to boulevard trees, but this is actually Russ's idea from another city he used to work in, and it was very successful. It's going to private property, so the private people will then get a free tree. We're going to give them instructions on what to do, how to plant it, how to take care of it, and then they'll sign a pledge that they're going to water it for 3 years and take care of it. It'll go on private property, and it's just going to help get more trees into Morris. Especially rentals landlords tend not to replace a tree when it dies, and so this will hopefully get more trees in backyards. We also have the Emerald Ash Borer plan that's going to come to you soon, and then we've worked on a draft downtown tree plan, and that is ready to go for your input. You guys have a subcommittee comprised of, I think, Kim and Brian, Becca, and Russ. And so we're ready to go over our draft with that subcommittee, and then eventually it'll get to you. And I guess that's it. So if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
I just had one question. How effective is the treatment? You know, when you were talking about Boyd, Steve Boyd
Very.
Lawn Care?
We don't think we've lost a single elm in all these years to the Dutch elm disease treatment,
Wow.
and it's injections in the base. And we maybe have lost one, but it probably had it anyway, and so it's very effective. The emerald ash borer, there is also a treatment, and it is much less expensive. So as part of our emerald ash borer plan, we'll probably recommend that some trees get treated for that, and that's quite inexpensive. I think, Tom, it's like $40 for an 18-inch tree or something, if the city does the work, or,
If the city would do the work, it's $2.50 per diameter inch. So in other words, a 10-inch tree would be $22.50. If the city can provide the person to apply the tree injection. If a commercial person is hired, oftentimes that cost will go up to $8 to $12.50 per diameter inch. So there's a big difference in cost if the city can take some efforts to do some application here.
so in a lot of cities, volunteers do it, city crew does it, whatever. It's not too difficult of a process, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's something
Okay.
that we're thinking about.
It's good to know, thank you. Any other questions for Sue? No?
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you very.
Thank you.
Yeah, good presentation, appreciate it. Let's see, back to the agenda. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
So Annette Watson, and my address is 115 South Atlantic Avenue. I believe that next week on Thursday, there's gonna be just a public hearing about the Christie Lake Dam project. So I thought that as communicators, you might communicate some questions that could be answered that night before we get there. So one of the issues that I'm thinking about is invasive species. They talked about how they were gonna release fish, but I don't know if you're going to present each choice. If each choice had, this is what the invasive species is going to be like, or treatment or whatever, I'd like to hear that. And then I think we did, or when I was listening, we did talk about the water table, but just want to make sure that that's in the presentation somehow. So, thank you.
Thanks, Annette. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? Now would be a good time for that. Seeing none, we shall move on. We do not have any public hearings tonight. We shall now then move on to reading and approval of our meeting minutes from February 11th, our regular meeting minutes. Any discussion on that at all, or?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
No second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve our February 11th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And now we will move on to the condensed version of the minutes from February 11th, 2025.
I will move approval of the condensed minutes from the February 11th meeting.
I'll second. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the February 11th, 2025 condensed version of the meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We shall move on to the consent agenda, which tonight consists of the audit of city bills, our Morris Public Library Board meeting minutes from December 11th, 2024, our City of Morris Tree Board meeting minutes from January 15th, 2025, our Morris Planning Commission meeting, January 21st, 2025, City of Morris Park Board meeting minutes from February 12th, 2025. Our Morris Transit report. And last item G, application for exempt permit from Rusk Kinship Mentoring Incorporated. I guess I will move approval of those items on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the items on the consent agenda. I will now turn it and bring it back to the council. If there's any items on there that you would like to discuss, now would be a good time for that. Looks like our library board and tree board have been very active, so thank you for all of you there, all your hard work. Looks like we're full staff on the park board now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good deal. Still have a vacancy on the library board, is that right, or no?
No,
No, we're good there?
Tourism?
tourism.
All right,
Planning field up?
We have one that wanted,
There's-
it didn't get in time for the council meeting. And then, airport has one.
okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Was there any other discussion on the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll just have a voice vote on that as well. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to our petitions and requests and communications. The first one before us is a consumption and display permit. That, I believe, is for Crystal Lanes Entertainment.
I will move approval of the consumption and display permit for Crystal Lanes and Entertainment Center pending verification of the insurance coverage. I think is required to do that with any of the liquor or setup license.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the consumption and display permit for Crystal Lanes Entertainment Center. And once again, I'll just ask for a roll call vote on that, or excuse me, I'll just ask for a voice vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, we get to Kirby. This is the added item B under petitions, requests, and communications regarding the rear setback variance for the Baseball Association. And I guess I'll open it back up to the council if there's any final discussion or questions for Kirby, and we'll have to take some kind of action on this.
So I know some of the, well, I'll make this statement, some of the concern, or the comments, I should say, at the planning commission revolved around the which way street side, which ones for all your different setbacks, right? And I think, to a certain degree that got squared away that night. As I look at Margaret, the chair of the planning commission, one of the comments from Commissioner Kuchenreiter was a concern about if we get a very heavy snow or a lot of snow, whether 25 would be enough of a setback off of the road. But that was one of the main concerns. I know one of the citizens that showed up more or less, don't build an ugly building, right? And that's, but those were some of the things, and whether that be done with planting things out front, shrubs or trees to help beautify the space as well. But those are just a couple of the things that were discussed at the planning commission for the rest of the council's comments or edification, I should say.
Just an item for discussion, you know, obviously it hasn't been granted yet, but for something for us to think about down the road if this does come to fruition. Regarding the snow removal for that parking area, there was some discussion when I spoke to Kirby after the meeting about who was gonna do what as far as the snow removal, but as we all know, we have that composting site there anyway, and the way I see it, we're pretty much obligated to keep that parking lot open anyway. So I guess I don't really see that being a really big issue. I don't know what you think on that, Becca, but we got the equipment to do it, and I think it would be a nice move on our part to help the baseball association out with the snow removal. We certainly have the equipment to do it. They're gonna build the building and take care of all the maintenance, and I think the way I see it, the least we can do is help them with snow. I don't know what your thoughts are, but
I guess I just wanna thank them for their effort. They originally came and planned on trying to do it out left field or between the armory and where the baseball field is. It originally was not gonna have a bathroom because of trying to have issues with water, so I'd suggested to try to do something on this chunk of land that they're looking at. I think it takes care of a parking issue because you got a parking lot right there, so it's gonna be easy to get in and out of. We've talked with Russ on it, and yeah, it's easy to hook up with water and sewer for the city. And I'm quite sure somewhere that I read or was told that it will remain Baseball Association property. So it won't be the city's, it's gonna be the Baseball Association's building, correct? Thank you.
What is the actual motion we're making here? What are we, I didn't write that down.
So just further discussion, planning commission had asked, because
Oh,
we
so
hadn't
we're
seen
just
anything
discussing.
here, right, to give, whether we're okay with this, placement, was what planning commission was looking for, because we hadn't seen this.
So do we have to do anything? Is this a motion then to accept this?
I think we should take some kind of action, just so, some formal action, so they know that we're okay with that 4-foot rear setback. That was kind of the,
Well, yeah, it's not
We're not
a 4
approving
foot
the-
back,
Not-
it's,
not
the
that,
building's
but-
gonna sit on the property line.
yes.
So,
So-
from the lot line to the parking lot is 4 feet, but it's gonna sit
Right.
on, so the variance request is to sit on our lot line, essentially.
Yeah, and as property owners, everyone within a 300 foot
Yeah.
radius gets notified. We're property owners,
Yeah, we're the neighbors, I guess, in this case, so.
so
I
giving
think
us a
that's
chance to
really all we
speak
have
here.
to do is, you know, and just communicate our thoughts with regards to our relationship to the building. I don't know how you want to word it.
Yeah, I mean, the planning commission will issue the variance
That's
There
what-
is no roadway.
if approved.
So we're still approving this,
But ours would be whether we, I guess motion in a second, whether we are okay with it,
Yeah.
technically.
I would say you're just sending it back saying you give your blessing to have it on the lot line,
Yes,
is what the planning
Alright.
commission is asking.
that's a good way to put it.
all right,
There is no roadway that goes down
No.
along the
No.
south side of the ball field any longer. I think once upon a time there was, but
No.
So we'll just have to put that, what she said, in a motion.
that's what I was, a roundabout way. I will make a motion approving the placement of the baseball facility on the city property line.
Think that
Baseball's
works?
indoor facility.
I will second that.
Okay. All right, we got it done.
Not yet, we still got.
Well,
Not
not
yet.
quite. We'll have, I think what I'll do is ask for a roll call vote on that. We have a motion and a second, so I'll ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Shelby, Corrals,
Yes.
Coniston,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes,
Mayor Walters.
Yes. All right, now we have it done. Thanks, Kirby. All right, we shall move on to ordinances and resolutions. Our first resolution before us is a resolution appointing judges for the special school election, April 8th, 2025. Becca, do you want to speak to that maybe just a little bit?
Yeah, so, the school board has to have a special election for, a member on their board, so, we will provide, judges like we do for our normal elections. So all these judges have been trained, so these are the ones that have agreed to come that day and work.
I will move on that resolution appointing judges for the special school election on April 8th, 2025.
I will second with the comment, just for public's knowledge, it's precinct 2 at the National Guard Armory.
and that's where all voting for the city will take place.
Correct.
Or the school district?
School district.
School district.
Okay,
Just for this election only.
This
is
Right.
specific
Because it's a
one.
permanent
special
change, but
election,
Just for the
right.
special election. I know I received a postcard on it, I think, last week.
okay. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we have a first and a second on that. Once again, I'll ask for a roll call vote on that resolution, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Coniston,
Yes.
Corrals,
Yes.
Shelby, Mayor Walters.
Yes. Okay, next before us is a resolution designating Bolton and Mink, Inc. as the airport engineer for the Morris Municipal Airport. And I'll bring it back over to our city manager and she can maybe speak to that too.
Yeah, so every 5 years, we have to go out for an engineer for the airport, per FAA. So went through the process, we have a guideline set up and a policy for selection of, airport engineers. Committee, that is me, the finance director, and the airport manager. So we did get 3, RFQs from, Bolton and Mink, DGR, and TKDA. So, we've worked with Matt from TKDA. His came in, both representative from Bolton and Mink and DGR came out and talked to Tom. The one from DGR talked to Whitney since I was not there. And through all that, and the process, we are asking to have Bolton and Mink as the airport engineer. Big reason for wanting to switch. Both DGR and Bolton and Mink, when we gave them our capital improvement plan, which they all had because you can get it online. But it didn't specify, it was just all of the dollars we get in every year and our allocations, and that's what they were going to be using. And both of them, when they came out, were like, why aren't you using, or at least going after, these arrival departure grants? I was like, guess we didn't know about them. So they're very competitive from what DGR says, but at least it's, someone willing to put in time to do it. So we felt that Bolton and Mink being the closer, they're out of Wilmer instead of DGR was out of Sioux Falls, so quite a bit of difference in drive time and things, that we would go with them. So we are recommending to switch the airport engineer to Bolton and Mink.
Can I ask, was that a pretty unanimous decision by everybody that met with
Yes.
you guys and Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. They spent
Okay.
about 2 hours with Tom, and he really, enjoyed them.
Okay,
Mhm.
good to know. Because it
Mhm.
is a switch and there's always
It
that,
is.
"Nah,"
I know,
Yeah.
but
yes.
that's how you want the people at the table who
Right.
are there and know most about
Mhm.
the airport.
Yeah.
And funding would be people there. Okay.
Mhm.
I will move approval of the resolution designating Bolton and Mink Inc. as the airport engineer for the Morris Municipal Airport.
I will second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution designating Bolton and Mink Inc. as the airport engineer for the Morris Municipal Airport. Once again, Carolina, I'll ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Goldson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby, Corrals,
Yes.
Mayor Walters.
Yes. Okay, the last resolution before us is a resolution designating Moore Engineering Inc. as the city engineer for the city of Morris. And once again, I'll just bring it back to Becca.
Yeah, so we sent out RFPs for civil engineering service. We got 4 proposals back, Moore Engineering, Bolton and Mink, Woodseth, and Interstate Engineering. So we did interview 3 of them. After all the interviews, it was Public Works Director, Wastewater Supervisor, Councilmember Curls, and myself. And after reviewing all of them and having discussions with all of them, we are recommending Moore Engineering. Few things that we're very excited about with them. They have a mapping system that we're very excited to use and have. Their CIP program to help us navigate all the projects that we have left in town and kind of look at costs and how we want to configure doing them, and their ability to think outside the box on where to get funding. So those are 3 of the big reasons why we chose to work with them.
Trying to
Time.
find funding is always a very
Mhm.
good way to get in. So people who try to find funding is like, yay, okay.
Yes.
Time frame on this?
So once you approve them switching, we'll look at a general agreement with them. Project-wise, we'll have a different agreement for each project. We still need to kind of talk over how the transition is going to look. We still have some outstanding projects with Woodseth, so kind of trying to see how that works. But we'll start with Moore Engineering pretty much right away to try and get projects for next year lined up and get things going.
So this will be on an annual basis?
So the contract, I don't know how the agreement will look. That's,
I
yeah.
was just curious what we're looking at. Is it gonna be a 2-year, a 3-year, a 1 year that we go at? Just curiosity wise.
Yeah, if you kind of how you guys, so Woodseth's was always a year. At other places, we haven't had like you have to have us for so long. It's just kind of been an agreement, and then when projects come up, you get a specific. This is what the project's gonna look like, and these are our costs. But
So like, we would present.
To the microphone, please. We just
So people in
televise
the
to our
audience can
community
hear.
so they can hear what's going on with our experts that we're
Sure.
potentially gonna be putting.
So I'm John Pana with Moore Engineering. Be one of the people helping you guys if we move forward here. Really what, we told Zach and Becca and then when we interviewed is we'll have a contract in place that basically sets the terms of how we work together, right? So we call it a master service agreement. So we'll get all the terms and conditions out of the way right away. And then project by project, it would be a task order basis. So each task order would just really set the scope and fee for each project. We've already took care of the terms the first time. We'll set a duration in there probably of 2 or 3 years we like to do, because that'll set, those terms are in place for that time frame. It doesn't mean that if you're unhappy with us, there's no obligation to issue another task order whatsoever. When we interviewed with these guys, our goal is to be here till we're retired. I mean, that's how we're gonna approach services with you guys, look for funding, and really try to engage ourselves here. I mean, that's what we do with all our clients. So that's our goal ultimately. But no strings that you're stuck with us if you want to move on. That's part of the responsibility of doing the work. So
if one side or the other decides, you know what, this really isn't panning out, yeah, we're not locked in, but it would be nice, I think, for us to have some type of planning or hopefully having a 2 or 3, as you just said, so I
Yep.
think that,
Yeah, it sets the terms, it's nice, because then we don't have to revisit it as frequently. Because that's the headache part, you gotta send that stuff to your attorney, vice versa. Let's work that out right away, make sure we're all on the same page, and then we can just move forward on the projects, so.
That makes
thank you.
sense.
Thank you.
And just clarifying, we cannot have the same engineering firm that we have at the airport, so that pretty much correct? Would kick
Well, you
out
could,
if we
but-
did- Oh, we could, I thought we had to have separate, so there was something with the airport. we
Some,
had-
some just more focus on airports, or they have a division that's set up for airports.
Not that, I'm just seeing if
Yeah.
that would eliminate one of the 4, because I know some of the stuff, we had to have a separate engineering firm for our airport versus I thought our city work, but
I
just,
think you probably could have the same, but you have to go out every 5 years for one. But,
all right,
For that airport.
right,
It's to be every 5
right,
years.
yep.
that's all I have.
Okay. Any other discussion from the council? No?
No, their presentation was done very well. They interviewed very well. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution designating Moore Engineering as the city engineer for the city of Morris.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Look forward to a new partnership. It'll be fun.
We do too.
We'll bring it over to Carolina for a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Corrales,
Yes.
Selby, Miller,
Yes,
Goldson,
Yes.
Mayor Wallers.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That'd be good.
welcome.
All right, we will move on now to the city manager's newsletter.
Yeah. As talked about a little earlier in citizen comments, there is a public meeting for the dam project on Thursday, March 6th from 5 to 6 with the presentation starting at 6 o'clock. It's at Old Number 1. We did put a link on our Facebook and on the website, so if people have any questions, they can reach out to the DNR for those if they can't make it. Yeah, so that's that. Leadership networking, so we hosted a few Fridays ago a Lakes County Service Cooperative City Leader Networking Luncheon. So we discussed different solar items. So we had Cedar Walters and Griffin here discussing a Solar United Neighbor program. So it's where a group of residents who would like solar on their homes or businesses can sign up to get a free site evaluation and project cost estimate. So bigger project area, probably less cost. So if anyone is interested, they have until March 27th to sign up. They are going to have one more. They've had a few throughout last year, but they're going to have another Solar 101 info session March 25th. So webinar. So we did share the information on our website also for that. The tourism conference, Carolina and I went to the tourism conference last Tuesday and Wednesday. A lot of good information. We heard a lot about different AI tools. Again, that's a big popular thing coming up, and how you can utilize them to help you instead of sometimes maybe paying a consultant, because you can ask them a lot of different questions and get some different things. Big thing they talked about with the AI, public entities, some of the stuff that you might ask questions on, maybe private data. So they said maybe look at utilizing a paid one. Even the $20 paid one helps secure your stuff that you're asking a little bit better. So if we start utilizing that, you may see an ask for dollars for some stuff. But like the one ChatGPT she just talked about was like $20, so not a lot. We did, both of us attended a presentation on Winona and how they have really rallied behind organizations to bring in outdoor rec as a way of tourism. A lot of presenters talked a lot about how the marketing of tourism needs to be in the forefront of everyone's mind as we look at economic development. Because as we look at our communities and our health for our communities, people want, young professionals want to have a place that they can live, work, and invest in. And that comes a lot with what your community provides. So looking at tourism and visitors as a way of looking at how we can improve our economic development. So one of our presenters in a keynote talked about how their community was going to put up a Legoland, talked about how they had worked really hard with a lot of different organizations to put it in, and ended up with a lot of heated public meetings about traffic and noise. But he did share a comment that if your community is not changing, it is dying. And he shared with the communities that they need to look at modernizing their travel guides, making it look more magazine-like, fonts, colors, all those fun things that magazines attract with that, instead of the bland ones. I went to a presentation on asset-based economic development. So again, it talked about how tourism is the very foundation of economic development. So as people look to move into a community, they look to see what the quality of life, amenities, and attractiveness of the communities. So I have a lot more, but I'm leaving that for the tourism board meeting because it's about 2 pages, and Carolina has quite a bit too. But very good information. During the social hour, we sat next to 2 ladies that work for Explore Minnesota. So they gave us a contact to connect with a gal. You know, we talked a lot last year, and I heard a lot last year on the heads and beds, and this year they kind of talked about, you know, you should be advertising to the people within about 50 miles from you, because those are the people who are going to consistently come back to your community. So I did send that gal an email talking about, you know, what is really allowed with our dollars. What can we do? How far can we go out? It was brought up in the tourism board meetings a few times. You know, can we use our local dollars to advertise on the radio in Benson, because it's half-hour close, but they can get to a good range. So just questions on that, and I'm hoping with her as a contact, we can really start. Maybe, you know, there's a lot of grays, and that's what they said too. There's a lot of gray area, but there's a lot of things that we could probably be pushing through. So, yeah, just a lot of exciting things. Every time we go to, like I went last year, very exciting. It makes me super excited to start working on some tourist stuff, which maybe I'll skip down then to the university, because we have been working, there's a student named Logan who, Landon, yes, who has been amazing. He is a amazing young man who is super excited to get involved in the community and get events going that'll bring university students into the community, and hoping that the community members will kind of all rally around and you know, have this big old happy family with the college. So we are super excited. We started working, talked to him last week with the chamber. He wants to get involved in the Prairie Harvest Fest, so he's coming to their next board meeting. But we are looking at what kind of events we can do. So he has a really cool idea of doing a battle of the bands. We are working with him to try and see how we can help, and answering some questions and different things throughout the process. So I've talked to the venue. I need to talk to the county sheriff's office and a few more things. We meet with him again tomorrow. And so, yeah, super excited to try and see. He's got a lot of ideas to try and do different events in town. So very excited to see where that goes. We met with the newspaper and talked about a calendar. We've been talking about that for quite a few months. I met with them last year, but they do an awesome monthly calendar. So we're just going to try and see how we can put that on our websites, the university's websites, talk to the tourism board to print out some of these and put them around town, plus around towns outside of ours, which will go to the next tourism board meeting. So super exciting things with tourism. So very exciting there. Went up a couple weeks ago to the Coalition Day on the Capitol. So big items that the Coalition is looking at. LGA funding, always a big thing. They talked about, just like last year, city levies are getting bigger and the LGA is not paying what they used to pay. So they used to pay, it used to cover about 40% of the city's budget, and now the taxpayers are paying, well over 50. So, just trying to get that down. The big thing with that is states, in state statute, it says how much is going to be allocated, and it doesn't have an inflation rate. So they're really trying to push to put an inflationary rate in there. So that's a big push of theirs. Their business development, public infrastructure funding, and the governor's bill was cut by quite a bit. So they keep pushing for dollars there. Childcare, housing, economic development, transportation, and the EMS dollars. So those are all what the Coalition lobbies for us smaller cities. Talked about the LGA. I did meet with both Representative Anderson and Senator Westrom. So we talked about kind of upcoming things and projects in Morris. In doing so with Senator Westrom, we talked about the plans that we got for our bathroom, and now how we need an architect to sign off on our Wells Park bathroom, and which led into the building codes and plumbing codes. And he feels the strain for us smaller cities. And, he's like, well, why don't you just not have a building inspector? I said, well, we can't because we have the building code adopted. So unless we, and sometimes it's nice to have a building inspector for, I've seen it both ways. I've been in a city that doesn't, I've been in a city that does, and there are challenges if you don't and just do zoning, and so it's good to have one, but there are downsides, and some cons. When you have inspection, a permit for siding and windows and maintenance stuff, it's tough. But yeah, so we had a good conversation about building and plumbing codes, and then Representative Anderson and I talked about how the House was going and the challenges that they have faced right away, and kind of what our needs are. So, and the only other thing that's not on this list is I did have someone reach out wondering about a chicken ordinance and having chickens in town. I know Blaine had brought it up, he said briefly, to the council at one point, and it sounded like it didn't really go anywhere. So before I brought it to the Planning Commission and spent time working on an ordinance, I didn't know, I thought maybe I'd feel out the council on thoughts on chickens in town.
Well, we have an RF district established, correct? And that would be an allowable use in an RF district, residential
Correct.
farm district. And isn't that where that horse thing was? That's an RF district.
Mm-hmm.
So we already have the district in place, just whether or not we want to add. Did he specify where at, location wise?
She didn't. It was just, how do I go about wanting to get an ordinance created for this?
If I read our RF district, That is an allowable use in there. It's
In there, yes, not in the city as a whole.
not in the
like-
city as a whole. We
right.
have to declare it that district. I
So,
could read the language exactly. Well, you could.
I don't think she's asking about an RF district, she's
No.
wanting it in the whole
The
city,
entirety of town.
to be able to have.
Oh, to
Yeah.
have it within, okay.
within like a
Yeah.
normal residence.
I see you're not tagged on that one, but I'm guessing it's the same one that you got.
Yeah, we got.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't you get an email?
I don't think I did.
Oh. And I just think it's awfully hard to, you have junk ordinances that we are trying to establish, and you have dog licensing that doesn't get done, and that's in our ordinances, and how many dog licenses did you issue a year? I mean, we have all of these ordinances that we can't already keep track of, and so to add a chicken ordinance where we'd have to come up with language on how many chickens you have, and how would that affect the neighbors, and what if your chickens got out, and what, I mean, it's just a lot of policing in my mind to allow residents to have
My
chickens.
dog got into your chickens.
What do you do, or your, yeah, and
So
if,
who's,
yep. Or
And
does that
which-
incite more skunks, more
Yeah.
animals that way?
where do you draw the line? Do you stop at the chickens, or do you allow a chicken, and can you allow a pig? And then, I don't wanna buy milk, I'm gonna put a cow in my backyard also. I mean, you could limit one cow and 2 pigs and,
Well, the allowable uses, I got it right here, permitted uses in an RF farm resident district, you know, if we're gonna keep it like it is and just keep it confined to that, as opposed to opening up, it's, the permitted uses are single-family dwellings, general farming and orchards, stock raising and dairying, and permanent standards or stands for the sale of agricultural products on the premises, public parks and playgrounds, veterinary clinics for small animals. So, you know, that's, of course, keeping it confined to that type of a district, which I think that's where we've been, but what they're asking for is to expand it into within the city limits, so. Kind of tough, I think, like Councilmember Miller said, it's, where do you draw the line? You're gonna have green acres everywhere? I don't know.
and if we allow 4 and they have 6, who polices it?
Yeah.
I accidentally got a rooster with 3 hens, and now all of a sudden I have chicks. Well,
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. Are you asking us for guidance or direction?
If you're thinking if I bring an ordinance to the planning commission and they bring it here and it would fail, I'd rather not do all the work.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, no offense, but I
Right.
don't wanna put an ordinance together and
Yeah,
have
no,
them
I-
pass it for,
I'm glad you brought
To
it up.
die here.
right.
I personally I'm not in favor of doing it in the city limits for the residential areas, just with the potential of the eggs, the smell, if it's not taken care of, getting loose, having the neighborhood issues of, I mean, in a perfect world, when everything is complied with, but as we find out with our junk ordinances, the dogs, the cats that are straying, they get loose and you got them running around town. I don't know what the disease transfer that's happening, it's probably in the bigger flocks, but with all the bird and the stuff coming over, is that gonna be an issue?
Well, it's like to Councilmember Gullickson's point, I mean, we do have, I think, a lot of things already that we're trying to police, and this would be just one more thing, and I don't think there's a merit in it myself. So,
Okay.
Zach, you got any thoughts?
You guys have hit on the things that my thoughts on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
I thought you would put, Mary Elizabeth stuff.
Yep.
On the communications.
Yep,
But-
under the other business.
Oh, okay.
I
was
put it
gonna
under line item B.
Address, oh, okay, I was
We
gonna
gotta
address
set a
them there if
board
you want.
review
Oh,
first,
okay.
and we got a little ways to go.
Okay. Sounds good. I had it in the wrong spot.
Okay, any are you finished with your newsletter? Okay, any questions from our city manager on any of that? Okay. We shall move on to board updates. This is the opportunity for members to discuss anything going on in their various boards. Now would be a good time.
We hit on both of my boards already this evening. Tree and Planning Commission.
We
Okay.
followed through on the park board, just adding, we thought that for that bathroom facility, we'd be able to get it done. We figured like about 250,000 now with the engineering, we're just a little bit, we talked at the park board, which that sounded like it was gonna be quite a bit more expensive, or did we get a grant also to do part of that?
We didn't. So Norson gave us a quote essentially for being a construction manager. So they would take the plans and do them and ask for bids and do all this stuff. So the main thing we need is an architect to sign off. So Russ is going to be working with someone on Monday. We are going to, he's gonna talk to me about it then next week, because they will be out, or the next week, because they'll be out. And so I'm hoping it'll still be around that 250,000.
Good.
Because it was 350 with what Norson wanted to do, and really all we really need is just an architect to sign off on the lumberyard's bathroom plans.
Which is basically the same bathroom plan that the fairground is using. That's
Right.
where we went and got the plans and the model from them that they're using.
Yep.
And thought that would be an extremely efficient, good bathroom facility for
Yep.
us also, so.
Yeah,
Good, well, I
yeah, so we're
Got
still
that
hoping
info
it'll
on.
be,
great. And the plans, we had originally hoped to get that done right away, like the city crew to demolish and get things cleared off and to get it done like before, hopefully even baseball season, but it sounded like talking with Russ at our last meeting that it looked like it would probably be like August if we can make it work, or after the
yeah.
Little League or the fall season.
Yeah, so I talked with Jared with the Baseball Association, and they had asked that we waited until after their season was done. So instead of going and having porta potties up for most of the summer while they have their stuff, we'll just wait until their season is done.
And the extra mud and tear up
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Good deal. I really don't have anything to report from my various boards. We had our annual chamber workshop. Nikki from, the name of her company, she gave a nice presentation on goals and leadership and things. That was really good. Any other reports from any of the other boards?
Library board is meeting, several extra meetings for, financial things, as well as the library foundation, which is the one that, the money that's in West Central Initiative, that group, we're meeting on Monday night with that, so there's, lots of extra meetings.
Mhm. All right. I think if there's no other conversations there, we can move on to other business. Looks like we gotta set a date for our Board of Review meeting. I believe it's tentatively, did I see something, April 7th?
April 7th at 5:15.
That's a Monday, right?
first Monday of April,
Okay,
yes.
so that'd be at 5:15?
Mm-hmm.
Works for me, I guess.
Everybody's up to date on their certification.
I know I am.
I am.
Gotta have at least two.
We have to, I think at least
Have to
one.
have
At least one.
One.
I think we always get two people raise their hand.
I'm good for 4 years.
Yeah, I think
You
I
just did
renewed
yours
last
last year, yep.
So I should be good for another 3 years. I think you're
yeah.
good from 4, but
Mm-hmm.
it's relatively simple to go online and get that done.
It doesn't take that long.
Sure it is.
I could give you my cheat sheet so you could.
All right.
You want a motion on that, setting that date?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion setting that date then.
If you're good for 3 years, I don't have to worry.
Yeah, as long as we have one, or we have to turn it over to,
The county.
higher to the county,
Yeah.
we lose control of any.
I'll make a motion setting the date for the Board of Reviews as April 7th, 2025 at 5:15 at the Morris City Chambers.
I will second that.
Motion and a second, thank you. All those in favor of setting that date of April 7th at 5:15, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. On to item B, the added Mary Elizabeth stuff. As I mentioned earlier, she did show up during the citizens' comments portion of the meeting, last meeting, and her three concerns were, first one was concerning name and address. When we ask people to come up during public hearings and comments, we ask them to identify themselves, usually state their name and address. She had a concern about putting that information out there for different reasons. I think it's just always been sort of a standard protocol for no other reason, but, excuse me. I gotta sneeze.
You go ahead, I'll talk about it.
But, when I was at the planning commission meeting the other night, and that's what they opened up with. When people came up, they'd state their name and address, and I think it's just for the record more than anything, so I just don't really see the need to change
I
it.
guess if you have a complaint, we should have verification that it's somebody that lives within our city.
That's right.
To come forward and make a beef with us on an issue that it's not somebody that lives 10 miles out or comes in, then we're glad to take input from people, but want to hear where you're from, so if it is a citizen of our community or not, I think is valuable to know that.
And I did have a side conversation with Mary Elizabeth about this, and she was concerned about, some people don't have an address. You know, we do have homeless people, for example, and I think she was kind of cognizant of that, and, you know, putting a person in a difficult spot, but they don't have a house, so to speak, and, you know, just putting them in an uncomfortable position. But I think those types of situations are probably the exception. So I think that was just one, and I never would have thought of that. I guess homelessness isn't, I think, a real prevalent problem in our community, but it is in some areas, obviously. But the second thing she was talking about was the emergency declaration. She didn't feel was necessary, and a person that she knew evidently got their vehicle towed. Now, as it turns out, this person was new to Morris. And if you'll recall, about, I think it was 1 year or 2 years ago, we had that situation come up before where somebody was new to town, they didn't know about the code red alert system, hence their vehicle got towed and they had to pay to get it out and all that stuff. To her point, you know, maybe we could be, I think at our level, maybe we could do something to help new people coming to our community. If we have a link or something on our website that would tell people to go to Code Red or how to sign up for Code Red, something to that effect for people that are new to Morris. And a little bit of this is being a good neighbor too. I mean, if you got a neighbor that's new to town, maybe just reach out and tell them, you know, hey, you might want to sign up for Code Red so you know about the snow alerts. But somehow, I just thought maybe it would be some merit in us having a discussion and seeing if there's anything we can do at the city level, at our level, to try to get the word out there for people. Maybe it's, you know, every fall, I think we have the conversation about sump pumps. Maybe we could just, you know, put something out there at that time for people to get signed up for Code Red. Because, I mean, it comes, you know how many alerts you get, you know, when that declaration goes off, phone goes, emails, you know, whatever. So but you gotta sign up for it. And some people don't know how to sign up for it. That's kind of, I think, her point.
I think we talked about it the last time around, and it was to try to, I mean, in the olden days, we had a welcome wagon. I don't know if there's any such item as that, but talking maybe to the realtors, if they're selling new property into town, to letting people know that, yes, you can sign up, you can't park on the street when we declare a snow emergency, but, and like you say, the good neighbor, to let people know.
Yeah.
But if you talk, or if you're working somewhere, hopefully your coworkers or your neighbors are gonna alert you, and there's quite a few different options with your home phone, your cell phone. I mean, you get notified on your computer. So.
Well, and I think her other point was, you know, why did you have a snow emergency? We only got that much snow. Well, you know, I don't want Ross's job by any stretch. I mean, he
when
does.
we did that, they were guesstimating
Yes.
that we were gonna have 8
Yes.
to 10 inches.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
I mean, that's
I mean,
Saturday,
can't-
everything
forecast.
closed down and
You know,
then
Russ isn't a
Yeah.
meteorologist, you know, he's
No.
just
No.
going by what the meteorologists are telling us. So I completely supported the declaration. I mean, and it's certainly easier for our guys to get out there and do a good job of cleaning, you know, the streets, so. You know, maybe we got, you know, some areas did get 8+. We just happened to get a little bit, but no, I think he did the right thing. I fully support that. And then the last, I think, thing she was wanting an update on is where we're at with the snow and ice on our sidewalks and how that is getting policed. She is, as you know, the sidewalk cop, so to speak, and she knows of different areas of town that haven't been, in her opinion, haven't been taken care of properly. And are we doing our part to identify those sidewalks and those stretches? That's what her question was. And I can't speak to that.
Yeah, so how it's been done in the past is after the 3 days after they have their time to get it done, our guys would go out, send a letter, and then wait for the time to elapse on the letter and then clear if they haven't cleared it. In reading over the ordinance, it looks like we can clear it without sending a letter. So I'm gonna talk to Joe just to make sure that we don't have to notify them that we're gonna, and after that 72 hours, we can go clean.
After
Okay.
the last snowfall.
Yeah.
Is that how it works? So yeah, it's, sometimes it isn't timely. I mean, in that, you know, that could be a
Yeah.
complaint every year.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to remember to
Right.
do due diligence, but also, okay,
So.
you know, we're working on it.
Right. Usually, like I said, how it's been done, even this last snowfall, until she had come up and stated her complaint, and then we really read through it, is after that time elapsed, then they'd go out and look, and then they'd send a letter. So then you wait until they have the
I
time
don't think we've
to
been waiting
clean.
much, so I think with that, we've jumped on it a
So-
lot faster, like with the lawn mowing, or your lawn has to be a certain when you go to an extreme there, but I think being the public safety or the hazard that we've been doing it quite fast compared to any of the other stuff we've done. But I think how I took most of her complaint was with the ice more than the snow, and it's like, well, it's winter, your temperature fluctuations, we've had a 90-degree swing here in the last 7 days. You know, we were 40 below wind chills, and we were high 40s yesterday or today. So I mean, it's gonna melt, it's gonna freeze, it's to go out there, and if we gotta relax our ice a little bit, you go out and do the best you can
It will be
do.
impossible to
Yeah,
take
I mean,
ice out.
I see
If people
getting-
wanna walk, are the Lee Community Centers open for walking, and they have a walking track? I mean, I walk outside all the time, and this time of year, I don't, unless I know where the sidewalks are clean. Mainly because they're around the university and 7th Street, but even, like now, you can't see if it gets icy, and it's
Black
really
ice.
bad. I mean, it just even the streets get bad, so it's like,
Yeah, it's
unfortunately.
Minnesota.
It is.
It's almost
the
impossible
way
to
it
keep
is, yep.
ice off sidewalks.
Till this, until everything's cleared off.
And if we relax what our stating is to remove the snow and do the best you can with the ice, but like I say, we're in Minnesota with the melting and freezing, I don't think you're asking an extreme lot of every household to go out there and
Chip away
check
at
every
us.
day to, a little ice again. I mean, in a perfect world, but
Well, I think, you know, it's important to get the snow off, and then that, of course,
Yep.
allows the sun to do its thing, and that'll take care of the ice. So I think if-
eventually.
Except for the dippy sidewalks, or the sidewalks where
Yep.
the snow melts onto it, and then, I mean, it's just, yeah. We're working on the snow.
Yep.
You know, again.
I think we take care of the snow, the ice will take care of itself. All right, that's kind of what we do, you know, and the citizens, I just want to make sure that people know that when they come in and their citizens' comments are heard, and we do talk about it, so. Anything else to come before the council? Hearing none,